Thanks, Charlie. Oh, gosh. I've gotten so many awards, deserved and, frankly, undeserved in my life. But this one, I think, is probably the most, the one that moved me the most and meant the most to me personally and emotionally. I met Charlie, Jim and Nancy, 20 years ago in Santa Monica, California, and we were all parents of young children that attended the same school. And we were, oh my God, you know, we shared all the stories of parenting hell and coffee and jokes in the carpool line. And as I got to know them better, I became more aware of the singular and seemingly lonely battle that they were waging on behalf of their youngest child, Charlie's health. And it just pierced my heart. He suffered multiple seizures as a baby and a toddler, and in the days before, nobody can remember this, but internet access, Jim and Nancy felt completely alone in their search for an alternative to the multiple failed drug therapies with their attendant devastating side effects that were and still are the preferred course of treatment. They were very lucky that in their relentless research and reading in the library, they stumbled upon the ketogenic diet. But they were also so daring in deciding to pursue it in defiance of the finest doctor's advice, which is a terrifying thing to do when your child's health is at stake. It's an incredibly brave stance, but they were desperate, and they were determined to follow through with it. Even as difficult as the regimen can be to implement, they had an instinct, and they had a belief that all the stories they'd read and that they'd heard about were not just stories, they were true testimonials. And so, because of their daring and their defiance and their determination, they witnessed a miracle. The ketogenic diet gave them their boy back. He'd been battered by his illness and the side effects of medication for years. He was a very frail little boy. I remember this gigantic fella that stood next to me. Grew up to be a strong and seizure-free and smart young man. They were elated by their victory over this very cruel affliction, but also their victory over the ignorance and the willful antagonism that they'd faced from the medical community that seemed unwilling to support and even ready to thwart their efforts at every turn. So they took an enormous gamble, and they won big. But instead of gathering up their winnings and going home with their own good fortune, they made a vow that they have followed through with every day since. They made a vow that they would not allow other families to similarly suffer and stay in the dark about their options and the solutions available to them. They would not allow the medical profession to remain disdainful of a method that we now know brings to at least half of patients a reduction of seizures from between 50 and 90%. They made it their mission to connect doctors with doctors and nurses and clinicians and dietitians and researchers in a network of information sharing that benefits everybody. And they made it their mission to connect parents with parents, to share stories and frustrations and information, and above all, hope. Hope that help is out there, that support is out there, and that each family is not alone in their struggle. They made the Charlie Foundation, this miraculous organization that may have done more to promote understanding and access to information across all treatment protocols than any other, into the mysteries and the methods of curing epilepsy. And their tireless efforts to further research and to marry scientific study to the anecdotal evidence of thousands of families around the world is, to me, just so humbling and admirable. And I really showed up tonight to applaud them and celebrate them and their achievement. I'm not done. I'm not done. My little part in spreading the good news about the ketogenic diet in First Do No Harm is something I am very proud of. Maybe not because of the acting, but because of the honor it was for me to tell Connie Intermitti's story, the story of a real mom and all the moms who went through so many of the same unbearable battles on behalf of their kids, as my friends did, and more than they did because of her limited resources. The story of a mom and dad who demonstrated the same daring, defiance, and determination to save their child's life. I hadn't looked at the movie in 20 years. And believe it or not, I don't sit around every night and watch my movies. Well, not every night. But I am currently on location in Oklahoma shooting a movie. And I'm living right next door to my co-star, Margot Martindale. And coincidentally, the last time I worked with Margot Martindale was in First Do No Harm. So Jim sent us a DVD, and we plopped down on the couch last night and we watched it. We were struck by two things. First, how young and cute we really were. Long ago. But second, how amazing it was that Jim Abrams has managed to be so ahead of his time in writing and directing and producing this movie, not only relative to the ketogenic diet, but also in recounting the frustration with insurance issues in the film, children being denied coverage because of pre-existing conditions, the insanity of submitting and resubmitting forms and being rejected by insurers, families going bankrupt, and houses being foreclosed on because of exorbitant medical bills, et cetera, et cetera. This is language that seems pulled from the headlines of our political news today, 2012. So I'm so grateful to Jim for allowing me to be associated with this wonderful film that I think should be, required viewing in every neurology department, in every medical school. Without question, without question. I feel so privileged to have been able to tell Connie's story and to amplify it for other moms and dads to know they're not alone. And there is help and information and support out there for you. 50 million people who suffer from these disorders thank you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the privilege of standing here with you tonight. Thanks.